Most people will spend their entire life at stage 1 or stage 2. Not because they're lazy, not because they're unlucky, because nobody ever showed them what actually changes at each level, and more importantly, what it takes to move up. By the end of this video, you will know exactly where you are. You will live inside each stage. The morning routines, the meals, the stress, the relationships, the decisions, all of it. And I'll show you what the top of this ladder actually looks like, what the 1% do differently, that 99% of people never see. There are 7 stages. We're going to climb every single one today. And I need you to watch this the whole way through, because the stage you think you're in and the stage you're actually in are often 2 very different places. If this kind of content hits home for you, real psychology, real money behavior, real frameworks that actually change how you think, hit subscribe, because this channel exists to do one thing: help you stop being financially average. And we don't sugarcoat how hard that is. If you've ever checked your bank account before buying groceries, this stage is for you. No shame in it. But let's be brutally honest about what this life actually looks like from the inside. You wake up, before your eyes even fully open, the number is already there. Not an alarm, not a plan, the balance. You ran it in your head sometime around 3 a.m. and it's still there waiting for you at 6:47 in the morning. The stress is the alarm. Your nervous system learned a long time ago that there's no safe moment to stop calculating. Breakfast is whatever requires no thought and no money. Maybe you skip it entirely. The coffee is instant because the good stuff costs $3 more per week, and $3 matters right now. Work starts, and the math starts with it. Not the math of building something, the math of surviving until Friday. Every hour traded for a number that already has a destination before it lands in your account. Rent, utilities, that minimum payment that's been following you for 2 years. You're not building your coverage. Every financial decision you make at this stage is made from fear, not strategy. Fear. And here's what nobody tells you about that: the decisions you make from that place look irrational from the outside. But inside stage 1, they are completely rational. By evening, you're exhausted in a specific way. Not physically tired, mentally hollowed out. You scrolled. Not for entertainment, for escape. There's no energy left to think about tomorrow because today took everything. Here's the psychology behind what's actually happening in stage 1 and why it matters more than the money itself. When you're operating under constant financial scarcity, your brain physically narrows its attention. This is documented. Researchers Sendhil, Mulinathan, and El Shafir called it the bandwidth tax. When your mental resources are consumed by immediate survival, there's genuinely less cognitive capacity left for long-term thinking. This isn't weakness. This is human neuroscience doing exactly what it was designed to do. You can't think about next year's retirement account when this week's electric bill is on fire. The tunnel doesn't let you. The brain prioritizes the immediate threat always, and everything else becomes background noise. This is why people in stage 1 make decisions that look irrational to people in stage 4 or 5. Taking the payday loan, skipping the doctor, buying the cheaper thing that breaks faster. From the outside, those look like poor choices. From inside the tunnel, they are the only choices that make sense given the information and resources available, right? This dome poverty is not a character flaw. It is a cognitive environment. What is actually keeping you here? Let's be specific. No emergency fund means every small crisis becomes a catastrophe. Your tire blows, your kid gets sick, your phone breaks. Any one of these sends the whole system backward. Not because you're irresponsible, because there's no buffer between you and the edge. Your lifestyle is tied to your income with zero gap. Every dollar that comes in already has a name before it arrives. There is no margin. And without margin, there is no movement. Your social circle normalizes this stage as permanent, not maliciously. But when everyone around you treats financial struggle as just how it is, the invisible pressure to stay in that frame is enormous. You can't overstate how much our environment shapes our financial ceiling. And then there's the trap that catches more people than anything else. I'll start saving when I earn more. You've been saying it, maybe for years. The problem is that income alone doesn't solve a stage 1 problem. People with $80,000 salaries repeat stage 1 patterns because the stage is psychological, not just financial. There is a way out. One metric that matters more than anything else at this stage. It's the income gap, the distance between what comes in and what goes out. That's it. Not the investment account. Not the side hustle. Not the financial course. Just how wide is that gap right now? And which lever is more realistic for you to pull, earn more, or spend less? Both paths are real, but they require honesty about your actual situation, not the situation you wish you were in. The $1,000 emergency fund is not a savings goal. It is a psychological turning point. Research on financial behavior consistently shows that having even a small buffer changes how you make decisions. The tunnel widens slightly. The immediate panic quiets enough to let you think 1 week further out than before. Real people escape stage 1 not through some dramatic event, but through one specific decision that they refuse to reverse. Sometimes it's eliminating one recurring expense. Sometimes it's a second income stream that finally created a gap. Sometimes it's moving somewhere cheaper. But there is always a trigger, a moment where they chose to treat the gap as sacred. That's the door, and it's smaller than you think. Stage 2 feels safe. That's exactly why it's dangerous. Millions of people retire here, not by choice, but by accident. It's 6:47 a.m. You're sitting at a wooden desk. The coffee is from your kitchen, not a cafe. You made that change 6 months ago, and you're proud of it. Your laptop has 3 tabs open. Your bank statement, a freelance job board, and a YouTube video about passive income that you paused somewhere around the 40-minute mark last night. You haven't started work yet, but you already feel behind. Bills are paid. That is genuinely different from stage 1, and you should let yourself feel that. But you know, the buffer is thin. The anxiety hasn't disappeared. It's just moved underground. It no longer screams. It hums, constant, low, just below the surface of a normal day. Weekends carry a specific stage to feeling. Sunday evening, sometime around 8 p.m., you run the week spending in your head. Did I overspend? Am I okay? The math isn't terrifying anymore, but it's still the math you live inside. Meals are slightly better. You're cooking more. Takeout is a treat, not a default. You're making choices, small ones. That's stage 1 you couldn't afford to make. Here's what's actually different from stage 1 and what's dangerously similar. You have a buffer. It's thin, but exists. That matters enormously. The ability to absorb a small crisis without going backward is not a small thing. It is the difference between a setback and a spiral. You've started thinking about money, not just reacting to it. There are spreadsheets now, budget apps, maybe a savings account that actually has something in it. The relationship with money has shifted from pure survival to something approaching management. But here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The dangerous comfort of, I'm doing okay. That sentence has trapped more financially capable people than almost any other. You are doing okay. And okay starts to feel like enough. And enough quietly becomes permanent. The stability trap is real, and it's subtle enough to miss entirely. As income grows in stage 2, lifestyle inflates with it. Almost automatically. It's not reckless. It feels earned. Better apartment, newer car, nicer restaurants a few times a month. Each individual upgrade seems reasonable. Together, they eat the entire raise before it has a chance to become anything. This is lifestyle inflation, and behavioral economists have documented it as one of the most consistent patterns in middle-income financial behavior. The hedonic treadmill, your standard of living adjusts upward to match your income, and the gap stays exactly where it was. And then there's the silent killer of stage 2, keeping up appearances. This is where $60,000 and $80,000 earners feel just as broke as they did at stage 1. Not because they're spending in proportion to a self-image that's slightly ahead of their actual financial position. The slightly nicer car, the clothes that signal arrival, the vacation because everyone else went, each one a small leak. Together, they sink the whole ship before it ever leaves the harbor. The exit door from stage 2 is not about earning more. It's about keeping more. 3 to 6 months of living expenses. That's the real foundation. Not 1 month. Not 2. 3, 2, 6. Because 1 month of savings doesn't protect you from a job loss or a health event. It just buys you slightly more time before the crisis arrives. The shift from stage 2 to stage 3 is not financial. It's psychological. It's the moment you stop thinking about money as something that flows through you and start thinking about it as something you can hold and eventually put to work. That concept, money working for you instead of just you working for money, isn't a motivational poster. It's the literal mechanism that separates every stage above from every stage below. You don't have to understand it fully yet. You just have to start believing it's real. This is where most responsible adults live, and it feels good. But here's the problem. Security is not freedom, and most people confuse the two their entire lives. You wake up at 6:30 and you don't feel dread. That's new. The morning has structure. Actual structure. You read for 20 minutes. Maybe you exercise. You make a real breakfast. There's something called a plan, and the plan is working. And you know it's working because you can feel the slow filling of something that used to be empty. Your desk has a savings jar that's visibly growing. You have a system. It's simple, but it exists. A percentage goes here, another percentage goes there. You know, the numbers, they're small, but they're real. The book on your nightstand is something about investing. You're curious about money for the first time, not anxious about it. Curious? That shift is enormous. It means the relationship has changed from threat to puzzle. Work is still mandatory. You're not free. But the panic is gone. The decisions you make during the day are no longer filtered entirely through fear. Some of them are filtered through something closer to strategy. The psychology shift at stage 3 is the one that makes everything above possible. You've had your first experience of delayed gratification actually paying off. You put something off, you kept the discipline, and the account grew. That feedback loop, that small but real confirmation that your choices produce results, rewires something. Because stage 1 and stage 2 exist in a world where future rewards feel unreachable, stage 3 is the first time you feel the future as something that responds to your present choices. Your relationship with risk changes when you have a cushion, not because you become reckless, but because you become capable of thinking in longer time frames. The person with no savings can't afford to take any risk. The person with 3 months of expenses saved can consider a career move, a business idea, an investment that takes time to pay off. You've moved from reactive to proactive with money. That is not a small thing. That is the entire hinge. But here's what's still missing, and it's the thing that makes stage 3 a comfortable trap. Your money is saved, but it's not multiplying. It's sitting somewhere, earning somewhere between nothing and very little. And that gap between money sitting and money growing is the difference between a financially secure life and a financially free one. You're still one serious health event or one major job loss away from sliding back. The cushion is real, but it's not deep enough to protect you from the category of crisis that doesn't resolve in 3 months. And most critically, your time is still completely sold to an employer. Every hour of your life still has a price attached to it, and someone else is deciding how many of those hours they need from you. The exit door from stage 3 is the most important hinge in this entire video. The moment savings turns into investing, that is the true turning point. Not the day you open a brokerage account, the day you actually put money to work in an index fund, a dividend stock, a diversified portfolio, anything that grows while you sleep. Compound interest is not a motivational concept. It is a mathematical reality. A dollar invested at 25 does not become what a dollar invested at 35 becomes. The math on that gap is not slightly different. It is brutally, irreversibly different. Research on long-term investing consistently shows that the most powerful variable in wealth building is not return rate. It is time in the market. Here's the specific version. Someone who starts investing for $100 a month at 25 and earns a 7% average annual return will have roughly $1.1 million by 65. Someone who waits until 35 to do the same thing will have roughly $486,000. Same behavior, same discipline. 10 years of delay. More than $500,000 gone. Not lost, never created. This is the exit door. It's not complicated. It's just specific. And it requires you to move now instead of when it feels more comfortable. Because comfortable is stage 3's whole trap. Stage 4 is where the game completely changes. For the first time in your life, your money starts making decisions. Not just you. Your morning routine is intentional now, not reactive. You wake up and there's a sequence, something you built, something that belongs to you, exercise, a real breakfast. 30 minutes of reading before your phone gets involved in the day. Your laptop is open to a portfolio dashboard alongside your work emails that used to feel like something other people did. People with different backgrounds, different starting points, different last names. Now it's just Tuesday morning. There are investment books on your desk, not just read, but underlined. Applied. You've moved past theory. You're tracking real decisions against real outcomes and adjusting. The stress at stage 4 is at a new low. Not zero, but qualitatively different. The things that used to keep you up at night, the balance, the bill, the math, have been replaced by a different category of question. Not, will I make it, but where do I put this? Evenings involve actual conversations about opportunity. Not survival. Not did we overspend this week. Planning. What's the next move? What's the timeline? The language of your life has shifted, and you can feel it. The compounding effect hits you in a specific way at stage 4, and it changes how you see yourself. There will be a month, and you will remember it, where your investments earned more than you spent. Not more than you earned, more than you spent. Your portfolio generated a number that covered your groceries, your utilities, your entertainment. That moment is psychologically unlike anything that happened in stage 1 or 2 or 3. Because in that moment, you stop being exclusively a worker. You're still working, but there's something else working too. And that something doesn't take weekends off. Your identity shifts quietly. The way you introduce yourself, the conversations you enter, the risks you're willing to consider, all of it moves. Researchers in financial psychology have documented this as a shift in what they call financial self-efficacy. Your belief in your own capacity to manage and grow wealth. Once that belief is confirmed by real results, it's very hard to give back. But stage 4 has its own trap, and it's more dangerous because it arrives dressed as success. Overconfidence. Specifically, the kind of overconfidence that a bull market creates. When your portfolio grows month over month, it's easy to start believing you're smarter than the market. You're not. Nobody is. The history of investing is littered with stage 4 people who mistook a rising tide for personal genius. And then there's the lifestyle acceleration, the car upgrade, the apartment upgrade, better restaurants becoming a baseline, the quiet logic of I can afford this now, spending away the gap that actually creates. Stage 5. Behavioral economists call this the wealth effect. As asset values rise, spending increases in ways that feel completely rational in the moment and completely counterproductive in retrospect. Here's the specific danger. Lifestyle inflation at stage 4 doesn't keep you in stage 4. It pulls you back towards stage 3. Sometimes stage 2. When the market corrects or the income interrupts, the exit door from stage 4 is the transition from accumulation to income generation. Accumulation means you're adding to a pile. Income generation means the pile has started adding to itself significantly. The question that matters here is not how much do I have, but how much does what I have produced per year? That number, your portfolio's annual return, expressed as income, is the number that determines when work becomes optional. The rule of thumb most commonly referenced in financial independence research is the 4% rule. The idea that a diversified portfolio can sustain a 4% annual withdrawal indefinitely, not a guarantee, a historically tested guideline. If your expenses are $50,000 a year, you need roughly $1.25 million invested to support those expenses from portfolio income alone. That's a real number, a specific number, a buildable number. And stage 4 is where you build it. Start thinking now about passive income, not as a fantasy, but as a construction project with actual timelines and inputs, because the exit from stage 4 requires not just more, it requires income, regular, reliable, not to tour, or hours, income. That's what stage 5 is built on. Financial independence doesn't mean you're rich. It means your money has finally fired your boss. That is the most important sentence in this entire video. There is no alarm clock anxiety. None. The morning belongs to you entirely. You wake up when your body decides. You make coffee slowly. You sit somewhere comfortable. There is a mug in the scene, and what's in it is warm, and nobody is waiting on your reply to an email that was sent at 7:34 am. The commodity has changed. It used to be money. Now it's time. And time, unlike money, does not compound. You cannot get more of it. which means the person who trades less of it is the wealthier person, regardless of the bank account. Work is now optional or chosen, not mandatory. You may still be doing something productive, probably are, but you're doing it because it serves your purpose, not because someone else controls your calendar. That distinction is not subtle. It is the entire difference. Lunch happens when you're hungry on a schedule you set. That sounds like a small thing until you've spent 15 years eating at 12:30 because that's when the 30-minute window opens. Relationships change dramatically at this stage. You stop tolerating people in environments that drain you because you no longer have a financial reason to endure them. That sounds harsh. It is also one of the most profound freedoms that financial independence delivers. Here's what actually changes at stage 5 and what surprises people when they arrive. Decision-making is no longer filtered through, can I afford this? It's filtered through, do I want this? Those two questions feel similar from the outside. Inside, they are completely different cognitive experiences. One comes from scarcity. One comes from preference. The entire quality of your day changes when you live in the second one. Your health improves. This is documented, not anecdotal. Chronic financial stress is associated with elevated cortisol levels, disrupted sleep, worse dietary choices, and decreased immune function. When the financial stress resolves, those downstream effects begin to resolve too. You sleep better. You eat better. You more. Not because you suddenly have discipline, because the weight that was suppressing all of those behaviors has been lifted. And here's the part nobody warns you about. Some people arrive at stage 5 and feel unexpectedly empty. The goal they'd been moving toward for 10 or 15 years is achieved, and the goal is gone. There's a well-documented phenomenon in psychology called arrival fallacy. The gap between what we imagine achieving something will feel like and what it actually feels like. If your entire identity was built around the chase, reaching the destination requires building something new to move toward. Prepare for this. It is not a failure. It is a stage. The dangers of stage 5 are real and specific. One more year syndrome is the most common trap here. People who have reached independence, whose investments genuinely cover their expenses, continue working just one more year to build an additional buffer, sometimes for 3, 4, 5 more years. Fear of loss doesn't disappear when the numbers say you're fine. It recalibrates. What used to be fear of not having enough becomes fear of losing what you've built. The solution is not more numbers. It's a clear, predefined threshold you decided on before you got here. Inflation risk is real. Independence built on a fixed portfolio with no inflation adjustment erodes over time. The $50,000 that covers your expenses at 45 will not cover them at 65 if inflation does what it historically does. Stage 5 that isn't protected, isn't permanent, and social isolation is underestimated. Career, for most people, provides structure, identity, social connection, and purpose. When all four disappear simultaneously, the result can be disorienting. Plan for this intentionally, not as an afterthought. The exit door from stage 5 is not a bigger number. It's a different question. The question changes from, does my passive income cover my expenses, to does my passive income significantly exceed my expenses, and what do I do with the rest? That remainder, the amount above your needs, is the seed of stage 6. And more importantly, the mindset shift from taking care of yourself to building something that outlasts you is where stage 6 actually begins. At stage 5, you escape the rat race. At stage 6, you've forgotten the rat race exists. You wake up wherever you chose to wake up. Maybe it's a home by the water. Maybe it's a place in the mountains. Maybe it's the same house you've lived in for 20 years. Except now, everything in it was chosen with complete intent. The point is not the location. The point is that nobody assigned it to you. The phone is in your hand, but you're not checking work emails. You're checking opportunities. The difference is everything. Work, emails are obligations. Opportunities are options. Stage 6 is the first stage where every morning begins with options instead of obligations. And then there's the beach chair. I want to be specific about what that image means, because it's been misread by the personal finance world for decades. The person in the chair is not lazy. They are not checked out. They are experiencing the dividend of decades of discipline. The chair is evidence that the system worked. The rest is what all of it was building toward. Travel at this stage is first class. Not because it's a flex, not because of what other people think about it, but because comfort has become a baseline and the math supports it. That distinction matters. There's a difference between spending on comfort because you can afford it and spending on comfort because you've decided it reflects your values, both are fini. Only one is stage 6, thinking. Days are structured around energy and purpose, not schedules and deadlines. You build your day around when you think most clearly, when you're most creative, when you most want to rest. The schedule serves you completely for the first time. Here's what money actually buys at this stage. And it's not what most people think. It's not the things. The things are real and they're fine, but they are not the point. The point is the complete absence of financial fear. Every stage below stage 6 carries some version of financial fear, quiet or loud, conscious or background. At stage 6, it is gone. Structurally gone. Not suppressed, not ignored, actually gone. And the cognitive and emotional space that was occupied by that fear becomes available for something else. The luxury of saying no. No to bad deals. No to toxic people. No to opportunities that don't align with what you actually care about. The ability to say no without consequence is one of the most underrated forms of freedom in human life. Stage 6 is where you fully possess it. And optionality every day contains real choices that most people never get to make. Not just what to eat for dinner, but what to do with your life. Who to spend it with. What to build. What to walk away from. What to keep. The menu is entirely open. The unexpected realities of stage 6 are worth naming directly. Boredom is real. More real than most stage 6 people anticipated. When every practical constraint is removed, the question of what you actually want becomes unavoidable. And for many people, that's the first time they've had to sit with that question seriously. It can be uncomfortable. The search for meaning becomes the primary challenge. Not money, not security, not freedom. Those are solved. What now? That question for people who've spent decades building toward stage 6 can arrive with surprising force. The research on this is clear. Purpose and meaning are not automatically delivered by financial freedom. They require intentional construction. This is why many stage 6 people voluntarily return to building something new. Not because they failed, because the human need for contribution, for challenge, for creating something that didn't exist before, that need doesn't retire. And stage 6 gives you the extraordinary ability to pursue it entirely on your own terms. The exit from stage 6 is philosophical, not financial. The money is more than enough. The freedom is complete. What changes at stage 7 is the question you're asking. Not what do I need and not even what do I want, but what do I leave? That shift from personal freedom to generational impact is where stage 7 begins. And it is a shift in thinking, not in bank balance. Only 1% reach this level. But here's what nobody tells you. The gap between stage 6 and stage 7 isn't financial. It is philosophical. You're standing in front of a home that represents decades of compounding decisions. Your family is beside you. The way you're dressed is quiet, not loud. Wealth at this level doesn't announce itself. It just is. Your morning is about decisions that will affect people who haven't been born yet, not metaphorically. Literally. The trust structures, the foundation work, the education fund that will still be running when your grandchildren are in college. You are making choices across a time frame that most people have never seriously considered. Meetings at this stage are about building systems that outlive you. Foundations. Investments in other people's visions. Businesses designed to operate without your daily presence. The asset isn't the house or the portfolio. The asset is the knowledge, the network, the systems, and the values passed down deliberately starting now. Children in stage 7 households are raised inside wealth psychology from day one. Not entitlement psychology. The difference between giving someone a fish and giving them a relationship with the water. The language around money, the decision-making frameworks, the long-term thinking, these are embedded as early as the kitchen table. What's different about how they think? Because this is the part worth studying, regardless of your current stage. The question is not, how do I make money? It's, what problem do I solve at scale? The distinction between those two questions is the entire distance between working wealthy and legacy wealthy. One is a transaction, the other is a contribution. One ends when the deal closes. The other compounds for generations. Risk is calculated entirely differently when your base needs are covered 10 times over. Not recklessly differently. The risk of an action becomes more frightening than the risk of a large bet on a high conviction idea. When you can lose $5 million and still be fine, the calculus of what's worth trying changes fundamentally. Their relationship with time is worth examining closely. Stage 7 people buy other people's time, delegating everything that can be delegated, and protect their own with remarkable discipline. Not because their time is worth more than anyone else's as a human being, but because they have identified what their time uniquely produces, and they do only that. Legacy infrastructure is real and specific. Trusts, family foundations, education, funds, insurance structures that protect the system for generations. Businesses built on documented processes, not on the presence of one person. These are the tools of Stage 7, and they require expert construction, but they begin with a decision. I am building something that outlasts me. The truth about how most Stage 7 people got there, and it matters more than anything else in this section. It wasn't one big break. It wasn't an inheritance. It wasn't luck, at least not entirely. It was compounding decisions at every single stage we just walked through. Small decisions consistently made across a long enough time frame to produce outcomes that look miraculous from the outside. Here's the line that captures it. Most of them got there by refusing to spend like Stage 1 people while earning like Stage 4 people. The gap, the persistent, protected, sacred gap between income and spending is what everything is built on. Not intelligence, not timing, not connection. The gap. Here is the universal pattern that runs through every single stage we just covered. Write this down. First, awareness. You cannot leave a stage you haven't named. If you don't know you're in a trap, you will stay in it. The first act of every financial transformation is honest diagnosis. Not optimistic diagnosis, not comparative diagnosis, but honest. Second, the income-expense gap. Every single stage requires widening this gap and protecting it. Not sometimes, consistently. The gap is the engine. Everything else is the vehicle. Third, the identity shift. Your spending follows your self-image always, before the numbers change. Something about how you see yourself has to change. Stage 4. People don't spend like Stage 1 people because they no longer think like Stage 1 people. That shift is the work. Fourth, the right obsession. Each stage demands that you obsess over a different metric. Stage 1, the gap. Stage 2, the buffer. Stage 3, the savings rate. Stage 4, the portfolio growth. Stage 5, the income-to-expense ratio. Stage 6, the protection of what you've built. Stage 7, the legacy systems. Obsessing over the wrong metric at the wrong stage is how people get stuck. Fifth, your circle. You will not outgrow your financial environment without outgrowing some of the relationships inside it. Not all of them, not violently, but the people who consistently model the thinking of the stage you're leaving will pull you back, not out of malice, but out of comfort. What you're exposed to every day shapes what feels normal. And what feels normal shapes what you do. Every single person you admire financially was once exactly where you are right now. The version of you that reaches Stage 7 is already being built by the decision you make in the next 24 hours. Not next month. Not when things settle. Now, what stage are you at? And more importantly, what's your honest reason for still being there? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if this video gave you something real, something you're going to actually use, drop a like. It helps more people find this content who need it. And we'll see you in the next one.